in Bend, and between the two of us, we're thinking, okay, this is going to be a really great opportunity to put something together. Now, Michael, I'm really interested in the pottery aspect because space, that's the biggest consideration that we have right now. Classrooms are filled up with classes, what we're going to do, but we have a pottery studio on campus. We're thinking, maybe we could sneak in there with some equipment. Can we build little cabinets that would close up with equipment? And how do we work with them with the dust and all that kind of stuff? So crossing our fingers and it may work. There's other equipment areas within the college. We have 4 campuses. We're probably the largest community college in the United States, FTE-wise. We've got, carpentry shop that's on one campus that's miles away. We might be able to get them to do some guitar body stuff. We've got another STEM center that's a little closer in. They've got a laser cutter. We're also trying to figure out how can we get this involved in our own builds at our own campus and make a name for us that way. We do have a grant that's come through to kind of do something like that, to incorporate CAD and promote CAD for students that might not be interested. And there's some money involved there, so we might be able to get some equipment. I'm thinking, well, I'm doing okay, except that I'm hearing all these CAD instructor guys, and I'm going, okay, now I got to talk about CAD. But it fits right in with kind of the laser cutting. And this would be probably an hour's worth of lecture or more if I was doing it in a CAD class. Haven't had an opportunity to work this in yet. So they were talking about doing presentations, submit a proposal, and I thought, lay out a fretboard with CAD, what would be better than that? So I write out the 75-word thing, send it in thinking, probably won't get picked. Get the confirmation email and going, oh, shoot, I've got to figure out something. And on top of all that, we have twice as many students as we normally do that have started our CAD program. It's a 1-year certificate in training. Now, I did this in AutoCAD because I do AutoCAD. I've played around, well, not played around, but I've done some in SolidWorks, and I haven't done any in Inventor. But this could be applicable to any of that kind of stuff. You could build a 3D model of a fretboard. You could 3D print it if you had a big enough envelope. We don't with our equipment, so we'd have to make half size or quarter size little guitars. And I'm thinking, that might be kind of cool. You can do the body, you can do everything else. You can even do the strings if you really wanted to, I guess. And you can put all this stuff together as a 3D model. So this is applicable. What I would do in a CAD situation is find my layers here. Yeah, it's showing up pretty well. I would go in and I'd look at creating different layers. Oh, there we go. So I created a layer for fret number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up through 21. I assigned different colors. Basically, I just took the colors, and I started with 10, and I go, okay, that's fret number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I created this rainbow effect. And I'm going, oh, that's pretty neat. Maybe we could make rainbow colored frets. Yeah. And that's how I did my assignments. And you can talk about creating layers, you can talk about line weights, you can talk about all kinds of things in regards to the CAD drawing itself. And then I thought, okay, where do I get started with this whole thing? Well, obviously there's a fretboard, and obviously there's a metal scale. And I can measure what the size is at the top and at the bottom and the length, and I can create my fret board, and I made it kind of brown looking. And then I can figure out, okay, I can measure out where the nut goes, and I can also talk about dimensioning. Stop mouse. I can talk about text styles, I can talk about text size, I can make this full size, I can plot it out full size, I can plot it out at different scales. There are all kinds of elements that I can bring into a CAD class, into a drawing. Ordinarily I teach one in the fall, but because we had so many students sign up, I had to take on a different class. And we basically had to cancel an introductory CAD class that I'm thinking, man, this would be great to try this out. But I didn't get a chance to do that. But where do you go from there? Well, there was the MLA that's on the guitar website, and the MLA of doing the math calculations to figure out what the fret spacing is. And the first 5 were done, and then I figured out what the next ones were. I'm sure you could do an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not that technical savvy on that, but you could figure out and put in the constants in there. I used the 25.5 spacing and the constant of 17.817, and L minus D5 plus, or divided by, and then plus the previous fret spacing, all that. And you could have them work that through. You could have them do the MLA and do the fret spacing. And then you just start using AutoCAD commands. You do offsets, is what I did. What I did was to keep track, not only with the colors, but I also put in text in here to keep track of what the fret numbers were. It would be very easy to lose track of what's going on. So I kind of did them individually. I figured out one, I did an offset, I figured out the second on up to 21. And then I go, okay, what's the gap? I didn't have a fret that was not in a fretboard that I could measure with a micrometer or anything. So I looked up a couple of, Google search. What's the gap for a fret? Anywhere from about 0.023 to 0.024 to maybe 0.020. So I just kind of put 0.024 in there and figured, that's close enough. And then I started dimensioning. So if you look at the calculations for the fret distance for 1, it's going to be 1.431. And so I looked up the decimal equivalent, and I took my scale, and I went from, the nut, and I went down here, and I'm going, yeah, by golly, that's pretty doggone close. It's close enough for me. It's close enough for what we're working on. And I kind of verified everything as I went along. So there's all my dimensions. You can do baseline dimensioning. I just put in linear dimensions from a point. And then I thought, well, I'm getting pretty crowded in here for my demonstration. So I'm going to drop down here, and at fret spacing 12, I just started stacking dimensions in there. I made them equally spaced. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. All I did was I did an offset at that spacing. I think it was 3/8, and just snap to the endpoints. And you can talk about snap to, snap the points. And there's all kinds of things that you can do in your AutoCAD talk that you're working on. But the I don't know, the rainbow spacing looked pretty trick. And then I did the end view. I thought, well, it's got that 12-inch radius on there. And what you could also do is, I didn't figure out what the actual depth was before I got here. But you could put that on the end view. It's a little hard to see the brown in here, but you could put that in, and then you could kind of talk about, well, it starts out being a rectangle here. And then you put this curvature on it, and now you've got a little, that's why you're taking that saw and making that curve a little deeper, so that the height of that little T part on your fret comes down and gets the fret down onto the fretboard, so you can't get your fingernail in there like we did in our build. Okay. So there's a lot of things. I left the center line in here, and Dustin was kind of talking about laying out, having the students lay out the fretboard and doing the, so you can put, your lines in here and figure out where your fret dots would go, and do that for layout. That works as well. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And again, you could turn this into 3D pretty easy, or just draw it straight in SolidWorks or Inventor.